This episode has been brought to you by My Extraordinary Productions, helping you find the agents, managers, showrunners, and casting directors you need to connect with. Click the link in the description to learn more. Hi everyone, today's video is on voice ranges, especially if you kind of sing but you're not really a singer, or you're just curious, or you just want to build up your vocabulary. So if you want to play it safe and keep it simple, men, write baritone on your resume, women, write mezzo on your resume, and everyone else, you're going to have to watch the whole video because, a lot of people, even cisgendered people, don't fit neatly into either category. Now, for those of you who want to be more accurate, here's the rest of the video. Men typically fall into one of three categories: bass, baritone, or tenor, and you could think of that like low, middle, or high. Now, women also have the same three categories. They are contralto, mezzo-soprano, and soprano, but you don't always hear those terms. You may hear alto, mezzo, and soprano a lot more often. A lot of choirs do use the term baritone and the term mezzo-soprano, but sometimes, enough of the time, you get choirs that don't use those terms. Instead, they'll have a first soprano section and a second soprano section instead of a mezzo-soprano section, or they'll have a first bass and second bass when you would normally have baritone and bass. A lot of people fall into this trap of thinking if you are a first soprano or a first bass, you are a better singer than if you are a second soprano or a second bass. That's not what it means at all. The first thing it can mean is that this group of people is singing a very high part while this other group of people is just singing a moderately high part. Or it could mean this group of people is coming in 3 bars ahead of this group of people. Now, this system is good for a lot of things, but some people, mostly in the opera world, want to be even more specific, which gives us the Fox system. What the fuck am I talking about? Well, let's find out. So in the Fox system, you have soprano, mezzo-soprano, contralto, you have bass, baritone, and tenor. You also have sub-classifications of each one of those vocal groups. A buffo singer in the opera world usually is male, but I guess you could have a female equivalent of that. But basically, that means that you have a decent enough voice, but you're really there because you are hilarious. Likewise, the term character in this context means that you're an actor first, and you're also a singer, but you're really an actor. The next term is the term lyric, which in this context, next to one of these descriptors, means that you have a very light, pretty sounding voice. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have the term dramatic, which doesn't mean you're very dramatic. It means that you have a very strong voice, like strong enough that you can sing over an 80-piece orchestra. A countertenor usually implies a man who sings higher than the tenor range. Usually it's with a lot of head voice and falsetto. Often these singers can sing high enough that they're in the mezzo-soprano range. If you see the terms leggero or coloratura, just think vocal acrobatics, okay? These are the people who are ornamenting everything they do. Now, there are a couple other terms, but you're not going to use them that often, so we can move on. Our next term is ingenue, which is probably more of a thing in the musical theater space, but it is used to imply a young female character with an I want song. So, Belle from Beauty and the Beast. She wants much more than this provincial life. Baritenor is just what it sounds like. It is a portmanteau of baritone and tenor. It means that this singer sings kind of in the baritone range, kind of in the tenor range, maybe doesn't have those super high notes, maybe doesn't have those lower notes, but it is in there. Bass baritone is kind of what it sounds like. It is a compound word, meaning a very similar thing to baritenor. It's a male singer who doesn't have the super low bass notes, but also doesn't have the higher baritone notes. They're kind of in the middle. On a similar enough note, contralto is actually the less commonly used term. Alto kind of implies a female singer who has the lower harmony in any given chorus, but a contralto implies that this woman has a very deep, rich tone that can often compete with a tenor or even a baritone. A belt voice usually refers to a woman, usually in musical theater or jazz, and she sings a lot of her high notes with her chest voice. It gives this really powerful sound. Enough of the time, though, a woman's belt range does not go nearly as high as their head voice. Lastly, we have the term castrati, which hopefully people don't do this anymore. All right, let's move on to the next part. So what should an actor put on their resume? If you are an actor who sings and you're not into the classifications and you just need to put something down just to fill a spot, baritone and mezzo are the safest options, but as long as you use bass, baritone, tenor, alto, mezzo-soprano, or soprano, as long as you use one of those 6 terms, you are probably fine, just as long as you can back it up with your actual voice. Now, if you are very well trained as a singer and you sing either musical theater or you sing opera, then you can go with a more specific classification. However, you have to remember that not everyone is going to understand your resume. You may be better off having an opera resume and a general resume, or a musical theater resume and a general resume. On the specific resumes, yes, put down that you are a coloratura, or put down that you are an ingenue. That's actually a weird thing to put down. The point is, if you are regularly auditioning for a more specific thing, you can put down the more specific terms. However, on your general resume that you're going to send out to people who may not have the vocabulary you have, that's where you would put something like classically trained soprano or alto with musical theater experience. That's going to mean a lot more to the general public, and if someone wants to ask more questions because they do have the vocabulary, they'll ask, oh, you wrote classically trained soprano, can you tell me more about that? Or whatever the question is. Now, there are a lot of people who do not fit very well in either of those categories. Some people are country singers, or they are hip-hop R&B artists, or they sing a style of music where it's not really about the range, it's just the style of music. What is that person supposed to do? Well, you get a pass. You can just write down that you're a jazz singer or that you sing with a country group or whatever the case may be. Now, there are a lot of people who still don't fit very neatly into any category because they don't fit neatly in the gender binary, and a lot of these terms are very gendered. And the reason these terms are gendered is because they came from Italian and eventually migrated to Germany. So they went from one country where the language has 2 genders to a different country where the language has 3 genders. Your first option is to say, okay, these are the notes. I could go tenor with this. I could go contralto. Since I identify as male, I will go with tenor. Or since I identify as female, I will go with contralto. Alternatively, you can say that the range baritone, it doesn't actually refer to gender because you can have a baritone horn. That horn isn't male or female, it is an inanimate object. The term baritone just refers to the notes that it plays. You can say, regardless of my gender, regardless of how I present, regardless of any of that, these are the notes I happen to be able to sing. This is a baritone range. I am going to say that I am a baritone, or contralto, or whatever you want to go with. One final note about all of these terms, don't be too quick to either be identified or to identify yourself. It can take a year of consistent vocal training before you finally figure out, I feel the most comfortable singing in this range. Most of us have very similar ranges, only a few of us are really outliers, right? So don't get too attached to your identity as a tenor or your identity as a mezzo. You're allowed to say, this is my range, but this is what I am needed for right now, so I am doing this right now. The next time you are in this situation, you can do something else. It's fine. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this helped 1 or 2 of you out. If you have a term I did not go over, please feel free to leave a comment below. Otherwise, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on social media, and I will see you all next time.